Antarctica is one giant snowfield containing 90% of the world's ice. From Sydney, it's 5 hours flying time there, 5 hours back, and about 3 hours of viewing some of the coldest and remotest places on Earth. It's so cold, nothing apart from native marine and bird life lives or grows there. A handful of scientists venture there each year and return to tell unbelievable tales of their battles against hell. Sydney couple Ron and Margie McIntyre camped for a year, the first to do so since Mawson in 1913.
Most girls cry a lot of the time, so each day I'd probably start by crying because I'd get down, I'd get dressed, and it'd be probably minus 15 inside the hut, and then I'd have to go outside to the toilet, which was a bucket, and that was on the annex, and that temperature would be about minus 33, and then you come back in to wash your hands and all the water would be frozen, so you couldn't wash your hands, and then you'd sit down and put your face cream on and that was frozen solid, and you think, well, it's a logical thing to cry, you know.
Former Williamtown Air Force pilot John Seaton was one of the first to fly an aircraft to the South Pole.
And we spent a year at Mawson helping with the operation down there, that is offering support in 5 or 6 different areas, haulage of freight around the place, doing aerial photography, Strait exploration into unexplored areas.
This was the first time he's been back in 40 years. Now more and more people are experiencing a wild adventure in armchair comfort. 2 years ago, Melbourne tour operator Croydon Travel teamed with Port Macquarie business people John and Helen Ross to operate charter flights. These have to fit in when the Antarctic weather is at its summer best. For those who haven't decided on that unusual Christmas gift or would like to experience a brief white Christmas, there will be 9 more flights before the icy weather begins, returning at the end of February.
While the reline of the number 4 blast furnace is complete, work crews were still busy today ironing out a few minor problems. After 71 days out of action, the furnace is scheduled to begin producing iron tomorrow and is expected to be back to full capacity within 7 days.
What it means now is we've got a furnace which has been refurbished so it can run at least until the year 2002 with good reliability, good safety, good environmental performance.
It's cost $70 million to rebuild the blast furnace, work that will guarantee its operational life for up to another 10 years. It's some reassurance to the 2,000 people employed by BHP steelmaking in Newcastle amid speculation about the future of the operation. Yesterday, under pressure from the opposition and unions, the federal government announced a joint parliamentary inquiry into Australian steelmaking. Newcastle executives are refusing to comment on the inquiry, saying they'll await the outcome of their own internal review.
The steel group review is still underway, and what comes out of that will determine how long the furnace runs.
Both the parliamentary inquiry and the BHP Steel Group are expected to report their findings by mid-next year. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Who can ask for anything more? I got music. I got myself. Who can ask for anything more? People come to see it and they leave the theatre smiling and tap dancing up the street, and it's you know, that's very rewarding from our point of view.
Playing football against them.
This is Surgery for the Future, a talking probing robot that goes by the name of ISOP. Developed in the United States over the last 5 years, the surgical robot is used in keyhole surgery.
In this hospital, it might be used for hernia repairs, for lap cholecystectomies. It can also be used in GYN procedures, tubal ligations. Save one.
Position 1 saved.
ISOP carries a mini camera with a light enabling the surgeon to see inside the body. The voice-activated robot has a number of advantages over conventional human surgical methods. The robot's camera can project a steady image and it can recall up to 3 positions inside the body. ISOP also talks back to the user. Developers say it's the cutting edge of technology with similar surgical robots in the pipeline.
And one in particular called Zeus that we think within a couple of years will be commercially available and allow surgeons to do coronary artery bypass on the patients laparoscopically or thoracoscopically without opening the chest.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
"29-year-old Luke Wickens and 27-year-old Matthew Fonda are back behind bars tonight, 8 days after escaping from a Bathurst prison farm. The pair was recaptured by police at Katingal, north of Tamworth, ending what police describe as a statewide crime spree. Wickens, a convicted child sex offender, and Fonda, serving time for assault and drug offences, led police on a wild chase through the Hunter and the Northwest. The pair came to police attention after a Honda Civic was slammed by a stolen four-wheel drive in the Newcastle Business District on Wednesday. The focus of the search shifted to Port Stephens when the car was found abandoned in bushland, but bad weather hampered the search and the pair made their way north. Police say the convicts travelled along the coast to Coffs Harbour before being spotted in Armidale last night. They were arrested when police intercepted their car between Armidale and Tamworth. The vehicle was dumped and the escapees fled on foot but were recaptured by police a short time later. They'll face a total of 23 charges in Tamworth Local Court tomorrow, including escaping from lawful custody, car stealing and break-and-enter offences.
In November 1993, Edgar Charles gave evidence to the inquest into the circumstances surrounding the death of 80-year-old Ada Collins of Swansea. She was found strangled in her Galgaba Street house, her killer never found. Mr Charles, who'd had a relationship with Mrs Collins, told the 1993 inquiry of a conversation he'd had with two women at a Belmont shopping centre. He said he knew one of the women as June and had only ever met them once. The Crown says that was a lie told under oath, and that he in fact had met with Gloria June Marshall 3 to 4 times, once taking her out to lunch. The day after the 1993 coronial inquest, the Crown claims Edgar Charles called Gloria June Marshall and asked her to tell a lie. This, they say, was an attempt to pervert the course of justice. It's alleged he said, "We have to talk. If the police get in contact with you, just tell them you've only seen me once." Listening into the telephone conversation was Mrs Marshall's daughter. She immediately hung up on Mr Charles and called police. Under cross-examination, Sergeant Tony Hetherington, who headed the inquiry into Ada Collins' death, admitted that in hindsight, the earlier contact between Gloria June Marshall and Edgar Charles had no real bearing on the investigation. However, he indicated that at the time, it was a lead which had to be followed. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
A hands-on approach to science characterises the University Summer School, the students involved in a variety of experiments and tests. Subjects include geology, biology, engineering and geography.
In engineering and in science, they're building things, they're doing experiments, they're using their hands to get involved in science rather than just to sit back and watch.
120 students are taking part in the school, selected from high schools from Taree in the north, south through to the Central Coast and west to Dubbo. The overall aim is to give them a better idea of what to expect from their chosen field, also introducing them to some of the experts.
They get to meet real scientists, people who are not only academics giving lectures, but also researchers, people who are making discoveries all the time and are making valuable contributions to the community.
The Science and Technology School continues through until Friday. Emma Ossian, NBN News. Last night was the Ethnic Choral Society's annual Christmas Carols concert. Held at the Sacred Heart Church in Hamilton, the carols attracted a crowd, people turning out to hear the voices of many nations. Among the 9 different choirs were the Dutch Twilight Singers, along with the German and Italian choirs. The Filipino choir also sang through a range of tunes. And the audience wasn't disappointed.
There's a golden rule in the Toll family: don't argue with anyone. Sibling rivalry takes on a whole new meaning for Rowan and Nathan, while the mother-daughter love is also quite different for Gail and Rebecca. The thing is, all the Toll family are now black belts in Jiu-Jitsu. Rebecca, Nathan and Gail were graded on the weekend. They're the first family from the Saltash Peter Morton Academy of Self-Defence to make the grade. Family feuds have taken on a new significance.
Pretty mild. We don't have too many, you're not game.
But the rise to black belt hasn't come overnight.
We've been training for quite a few years now, and they've always wanted to be black belts, so it's just a matter of time and hard work, and they got there.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
As the shock waves from the report into juvenile detention centres are absorbed, new directions for the system are already being mapped out. Warramai Detention Centre hasn't escaped the wrath of the report. With persistent allegations, inmates had been thumped and left bleeding without medical attention. Warramai management has closed ranks, offering no comment. One local politician has welcomed the report, saying the answer to improving juvenile justice lies in better funding.
To me, it indicates that more money should go into juvenile justice, into community services as well, and also we obviously need more training and better training for people involved in the juvenile justice system.
One of the recommendations from the report is to relocate the Warramai Juvenile Justice Centre from its site here in Broadmeadow. This comes despite a $314,000 capital works program. Changes to local juvenile detention centres include the closure of a segregation room at Warramai and the replacement of Mount Penang Centre on the Central Coast. Some also advocate remediation, not incarceration, of young inmates.
There is a need really to look at giving young offenders, I suppose, detention in the areas from which they come, and in that way giving them greater family contact.
For half an hour this afternoon, the skies over Singleton rained down savage fury. Hailstones the size of tennis ball pounded the town of 21,000 people. Virtually no home escaped unscathed from Mother Nature's onslaught.
Over 200 homes reported damaged, and I'd say there'd be an equal number that haven't been reported as yet.
As quickly as it came, the storm disappeared. Worst hit, Singleton Hospital. As SES crews worked to patch the roof, all patients were evacuated.
The roof, most of the roof has certainly been extensively damaged, and most of the walls have been inundated with water.
18 were transferred to Cessnock Hospital, a mother and newborn baby taken to Maitland. It's expected to be several days before the hospital reopens. At St Francis Xavier Primary School, barely a south-facing window was left intact. School has been cancelled for the rest of the week, while at Singleton Public, a decision on classes will be made tomorrow. Retailers at one of the town's biggest shopping centres are counting the cost after water flooded in through the ceiling. Thousands of dollars worth of electrical goods ruined. In town at the time of the storm, Minister responsible for the Hunter, Richard Face. He's tonight briefing the Premier on the situation, and it's expected the city will be declared a disaster area.
Everything that can be done will be done, and is done as expeditiously as possible to make everybody's life and get it back to normal as soon as possible.
Damage to houses and cars is expected to push the insurance bill into the millions. Tonight, though, the focus is on containing the damage.
We've got approximately 20 teams out working now. Bushfire services, state emergency services from here, Muswellbrook, Denman and Maitland. And tomorrow morning we're expecting more from down south.
With Christmas just a matter of weeks away, Singleton churchgoers will be left with a potent reminder to give thanks that no one was seriously injured in today's storm. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It seemed miles away from a hospital ward, and that's just the way organisers wanted it. Dedicated staff transforming the John Hunter Children's Hospital for a Christmas celebration. Hundreds of patients, past patients and parents embraced the festive spirit. While some dressed up for the occasion, others were just glad to be a part of it. Naturally, health food was the order of the day, but special treats were also on offer, all courtesy of dozens of local businesses and residents who donated the goodies. NBN's Big Dog delighted the children with a special appearance, and of course no Christmas party would be complete without Santa, who burst in to share presents and Christmas cheer with his charges. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The Hunter Mariners must be having some influence at Breakers Stadium. The soccer team last night trained league style. It was a chance to unwind for the draw specialists. Coach John Cosmina keen to point out there is purpose to the madness. His side needs to relax to break the winning drought. Newcastle hasn't won since their 6-1 drubbing of West Adelaide in round 1. It's been a long innings between drinks, but Cosmina says it's only a matter of time.
Sooner or later it will fall if we can keep making the chances that we're making.
According to his calculations, the Breakers would be in third place on the ladder if the Jason Bennett goal was allowed in the game against Wollongong and that Troy Halpin miss went in against Collingwood. Acknowledging they are excuses, Cosmina says it still reflects the closeness of the competition, and if the Breakers can improve on their early efforts, they can win games.
If we make sure tomorrow night that we don't concede silly goals early on, then we've got every chance of winning.
Injuries have forced Harry James and Peter Ritchie to miss the match, but Halpin returns from his 1-week suspension. More than 200 of the region's best bowlers rolled up at Hexham Bowling Club for the awards presentation. Windale Gateshead's Pat Barwick sat quietly in the wings until the announcement of the prestigious Player of the Year. Barwick's form was brilliant. He won the district fours and triples, was the runner-up of the state triples, a semi-finalist in the state fours and a quarter-finalist in the district pairs. The most improved bowler was Bruce Annan from Hamilton. The Hunter Eagles are hoping they'll improve for this weekend's baseball series against the Sydney Blues. After a busy week in the ABL, the Eagles will try and crush Sydney when the first match of the weekend triple header starts in under an hour. And there's no doubt there'll be crushing action at the Newcastle International Motordrome tomorrow night. A monster truck car crush heads the bill, while racing features 2 state titles and round 4 of the Super Sedan Top Gun series.
This shade cloth cuts out 94% of UV rays, providing a cool alternative for the children at the Junction Public School. It's one of the first to be put up in this area as part of a state government plan protecting young skin from the sun.
It's just constantly used and, right from the beginning of the year when we first had it erected, it became a focal point for the children to sort of, come and play and be out of the sun.
$80,000 will be shared between 21 schools in the region. The Cancer Council welcomes the move but says it's just the beginning.
It's probably the next step, is to teach kids to use the shade and then to try and translate that to what they do on weekends so that they learn that when we play outside in the middle of the day, when we play in the shade.
Other local schools will begin building shade facilities during the next few months. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The Smith family warehouse at Lambton is bulging with the generosity of others. Hundreds of cartons filled with canned hams, peanuts and Christmas goodies. Toys take up the rest of the available space. Tough economic times mean more Newcastle families than ever are needing a hand this Christmas.
We normally order enough food for a certain increase. And this year to have to order extra packed hampers to come up from Sydney, that was quite a shock to us.
In total, the Smith family expects to distribute 2,000 food hampers and as many as 8,000 toys throughout the Newcastle and Lake Macquarie district. In a first for the charity organisation, today members of local Lions clubs loaded up their cars to deliver food parcels and gifts to those people unable to make it into the Lambton depot themselves.
You get a nice welcome and a thank you very much, very grateful.
The Smith family's work doesn't end with today's distribution operation. Anyone needing a little extra this Christmas will still be able to call into the Nora Street depot right up to and including Christmas Eve. Any further donations of food and toys will also be gratefully accepted. Phil Hind, NBN News. Courtney Reid wasn't venturing too far from Father Phil's secure embrace today, hardly surprising after a night in hospital under observation. Less than 24 hours earlier, the 5-year-old was pulled from a friend's pool, barely alive.
Glanced away for no more than probably 20 seconds. Glanced back and the kids were yelling out to us and there she was face down in the water.
Although Phil Reid is trained in CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and pulled Courtney from the water, friend and lifesaver Ken Screen took control.
She was unconscious. She certainly wasn't breathing. She had a very weak, slow pulse.
Thanks to Ken's quick thinking and skill, Courtney is none the worse for her ordeal and able to play with her 4 brothers and sisters. Had no one at the barbecue been trained in CPR, it could easily have been a very different story.
To do the course and everything, a couple of hours you could learn the basics, which would be enough to keep someone going until help arrives. So it's something everyone should do, I believe.
Courtney, who can't swim, is also in line for some training.
And that's our first job tomorrow, is to book her in for swimming classes.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
We just heard a car screech to a halt, and then we just ran up and just saw Andre just lying there.